Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School. May I have a call to order, please?
Mr. Kaling,
Present.
Mr. Quadro, Dr. Spencer Robinson. Here. Dr. Bonner.
Present.
Mayor Shara.
She's coming through the door.
Here.
Here.
Can we all stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very close, intimate.
I have an mission statement.
Yes, the mission of Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School is to provide students with an education that equips them to be professional adults with a high level of expertise, knowledge, and competence in their field, creative and impactful members of their chosen vocations and their communities, and effective communicators who value diversity of thought, experience, and cultural backgrounds.
Thank you. Is there any participation by the public this evening? Please.
Thank you. My name is Leslie Scans Hodgson. I'm a resident of Northampton and I'm the librarian right here. And I have two comments to make. The first is I'm really appreciative of the recorded meetings because I can't always make them even though I live less than 10 miles away. So I do appreciate watching the recordings. And I would like us to go a step further. And one of the reasons that we have these recordings is because our community comes from so many different towns.
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry, it's me.
One of the reasons that we need these recorded meetings is because so many members of our community, our school community, come from so many different cities and towns, and they can't be here at 5 p.m. on the third Tuesday to watch the meetings. So I would like to propose that we go a step further and allow, much like the Northampton School Committee and the City Council do, public comment via Zoom. So I would like the board to consider that so that people who would like to make a public comment but can't be here because they live in Cummington or Peru or work longer hours can come in via Zoom and have their say. That's the first comment. The second comment is in my role as a librarian. And I actually wrote a statement because I have a lot to say. On March 14th, the White House issued an order declaring that the non-statutory components and functions of the following governmental entities shall be eliminated to the maximum extent consistent with the law and reduce the performance of their statutory functions to the minimum presence and function required by law. And it goes on to list 7 entities, including a Council on Homelessness, but also the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Now that order was to continue the reduction in the elements of the federal bureaucracy that the president has deemed are unnecessary. Apparently, the president feels adequate library services are unnecessary. It would be too time-consuming to describe the invaluable services public libraries provide to citizens, rural and urban, employed and unemployed, left and right, rich and poor, and homeless. Instead, I'll highlight how such an order, if allowed to take effect, could impact school libraries, including ours. The IMLS provides, on the basis of state population, financial support for libraries across the U.S. Massachusetts uses those funds to, among other things, provide free access to vetted databases to school libraries that have a licensed librarian. We are in a time when the default practice in doing research is to Google, or worse, turn to AI, often with results ranging from the merely incorrect to the disturbingly disinformed. The databases provided for free to schools by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners are absolutely necessary. The sources in these databases have been vetted for reliability, credibility, and accuracy. You don't get AI hallucinations or made-up citations or information scraped from dark or disreputable sites. Earlier this month, I taught criminal justice 9th graders how to use our free and powerful databases for a research project on notable figures in the history of criminal justice. The month before that, I did the same for Ms. Lindsay's students who are researching a topic of their choosing. I'm constantly pointing students and staff to this valuable resource. Our school also subscribes to Sora, which provides access to a vast library of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. It's a great value at about $1 per student, and faculty and staff can use it too. Adding to that value is the feature of turning on simultaneous access to one or more titles for whole classes or grades of students. All we have to do is ask. About 12 titles are being accessed simultaneously for the third trimester right now in ELA classes. This is a great accommodation for special education students who need it and is a huge money saver for the English department as it doesn't have to buy hard copies of the books they teach for each student. Sora is supported by the Commonwealth eBook program, which is funded by the IMLS, which again is being targeted for deep cuts. I know the board and administration are working on creating a budget for the next fiscal year, and you're probably already anxious about the massive cuts at the Department of Education, and I'm sorry to have to add to your concerns, but you need to be aware that library services at Smith Voc and our sending districts are in peril and will have a significant impact on student learning and their consumption of information. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners is working with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office to determine a legal course of action against the executive order, and several other state library agencies are doing the same, including Hawaii, New York, Maine, Rhode Island, Colorado, and Vermont. I urge you as a body or individually to register your opposition to this order.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Participation by the trustees, please.
I think most people are aware that vocational school admissions policies have been under state scrutiny as a result of high interest among students, a limited number of seats available, and stiff competition for those seats. The Board of Elementary and Secondary Education has studied this issue, and on March 10th, they released for public comment proposed amendments to vocational technical education regulations. These proposed changes will have a direct impact on our school. I submitted comments and I wanted to share some of them with you. The language used in the regulations will be modernized, with the word technical replacing the word vocational throughout. I understand why, but wonder about the implications for schools like ours whose names include vocational or agricultural and not career or technical. A weighted admissions lottery is being proposed and it is somewhat complicated. I think that the admissions process should be easily understood by students and their families, and this includes the rationale for assigning weights to various categories. I voiced support for the consideration of prospective students' discipline record as part of the admissions process. Students in their shop areas have immediate access to dangerous equipment and supplies. It's imperative to take the steps necessary to ensure the safety of students and staff. I also support consideration of attendance records as part of the admissions process. Our students spend half the time in academic classes that their peers at traditional high schools do. Regular attendance is essential to mastering course content and skills in both academic and vocational classes. Additionally, vocational instruction is sequential from grades 9 through 12, and missing shop time means missing a building block of that sequence. It's very difficult to make up lost vocational instruction. The proposed changes give more responsibility for sending district leaders to ensure that middle school students have access to information about the vocational education options available to them. I endorse that change. And finally, I supported the option for vocational schools to include a demonstration of interest from prospective students as one of the admissions criteria. But the proposed requirement to hold 2 open houses and 3 virtual information sessions seems excessive, since there would be so many other ways to demonstrate interest in the proposed language. Teachers already have a number of obligations to attend Smith Voc events outside of school hours, and it would be expensive to hold a second open house. I'm happy to talk with anyone who'd like to know more about this issue. The program advisory dinner last week was spectacular, and I want to thank the administrative leadership team for organizing it the shop teachers for their recruitment of committee members, the academic teachers for supporting the shop teachers, and culinary arts for one of the most delicious meals ever.
Thank you, very good. I'd also like to comment on Sunday in Holyoke. The city of Holyoke puts on one of the biggest St. Patrick's parades in the country. And it was well attended. There was a lot of events leading up to it. One of the people that got the JFK award was Bridget Monahan. And I had the opportunity to meet with her husband and her son, Jack Brady. And so it was quite an event. But also we had our CJ department march in the parade, and they had both instructors there. And we had 26 students. And it was a great representation as well as our police cruiser. And we had very high marks from the public in regards to not only the people involved in the parade that were complimenting us, but along the parade route, we were getting accolades as well from the public. So I just wanted to share that, and I thanked these students specifically because it wasn't over 50 degrees, it was more like 35 with the wind blowing, as the mayor can attest. And it was not what I would call a sunny day to do this, but I personally gathered them together and thanked them for being there and taking a day out of their lives to support the school, support their department. And I was very impressed. And overall, the police departments, the sheriff's departments were all coming up. The dispatcher for the Massachusetts State Police was there, and they were all complimenting our students. So I wanted to pass that along as well.
Mr. Aquadro isn't here. If he were, I think he would want to remark on the really successful visit of Chancellor Javier Reyes from UMass Amherst and his team to the campus a few weeks ago. It was just a wonderfully productive, really symbiotic kind of experience between UMass and Smith Vocational with definitely areas for potential collaboration identified and already followed through on by fantastic staff in both places. Really great. He was the person who was behind that visit.
Right,
So
right. I'm glad you brought that.
kudos to
Good.
him.
Excellent, thank you. And we're going to do the report on the building.
Yes.
You're on.
Craig Wilbur.
Thank you. Craig Wilbur from Schoolhouse Construction, your OPM for the agricultural, horticultural building. If those haven't looked out the window today, you can see that we have a building coming out of the ground very quickly. And since the last time we've met, we were talking about some significant struggles. We were talking about weather, pouring concrete, whether we would be able to pour concrete in this season. And there was a distinct possibility we were looking at that this project could have gone out several months. Due to the hard work of Kiter, the weather cooperating, and some very good concrete contractors on the project, we were able to pick a very specific day. The day was perfect, it worked, it poured, and that's why we are where we are today. So we did dodge a significant event there. So very happy with that. Since then, things will come very quickly now. We're about 46% complete by billing. All of the framing, the roofing, the windows are all 100% in place. The building is considered weather tight at this point, which is considered a significant event, which allows them to do all finished work inside the building. So now will be all the mechanicals, electrical, plumbing, starting the finishes, eventually in the next 2 or 3 months, painting. The siding on the building will start to go up in the next 3 weeks, and the site itself will start to be cleaned up and ready for April, where we will turn over some of that space to Tim Smith so he can put in a generator, and so that we can do our final site work that's associated with this. So upcoming work, siding, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, site work are all happening over the next 4 months. The project is still planned to complete in June. That is still later than expected, but I believe with some cooperation from the building department, Kiter, and ourselves, we can find a way of moving things in without interrupting what's going on with Kiter and give you an opportunity to move in a little earlier than July. But we feel we have that opportunity to give you. We may still finish early. I'd rather not say that until we're closer, but there is a chance we may see a few week improvement on the schedule. In the next few weeks, we're testing the windows for water tightness. So you will see someone out there spraying the windows for 2 days, wondering what they're doing. They're not cleaning them. They're testing them for leaks and failures. And that's a significant final step for us to wrap up the exterior of the building. We have a contingency balance right now of about $118,000. We started at 240. We were down to about 60. We were able to see some credits and some value engineering come back that allowed us to be able to be where we are today. As we move forward, we will make recommendations that money may be able to be used for something else that wasn't able to be put into the project or elsewhere, depending on your needs. And so we'd be glad at some point in the near future to release some of that money and it can be used elsewhere, which is a great thing, considering that we thought we would be in a dire situation with contingency early on. So very, very good news. We're on target. If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. But what I'd like to do is give you a time lapse of what's happened between December and now. There's no music, I apologize.
None needed.
Two and a half months and 4 minutes.
That's very cool.
Who does the white band belong to?
I'm not sure. Do you have a comment?
It's a constant presence.
Framers for sure are there the longest, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a framing.
So what did the icicles show?
Yeah. And the wind.
Yeah, there were some nasty freezing days for those poor guys.
So as you're saying, just putting on the final membrane, ice and water on the roof, and the shingling will show up momentarily. A little bit faster than it really happens in life, but
Or just like on the home improvement shows.
Except when they have music.
And it's just a repeat at this point.
That's
job.
I want to thank you, the entire campus, for being extremely cooperative, understanding. This is not something that every campus deals with, and we appreciate everyone's cooperation. We wouldn't be able to have done this without you. Any questions on the photographs or anything that's happening out there, curiosity?
First, appreciation for your role in it. I feel like talking with Dr. Lincoln-Hooker, especially about the building, that there has been some weight lifted from his shoulders, a little bit more spring in his step. I mean, it wasn't very long ago that we were all worried about both the timeline and the funding for it. So to be where we are now at this point, I did not imagine that at all. It's not that I went to the worst case scenario, but I thought I was maybe the most realistic, where we'd have to find funding somewhere else, and our teachers wouldn't be able to move into that space in advance of the next school year. And it sounds like neither of those will be true. So thank you so much for your role in it. At the program advisory dinner, Dr. Lincoln-Hooker gave us a tour, and the horticulture folks went in as well. It is something entirely different to be inside that structure. It's huge. I've seen all the renderings, I know how big that space is, but to be inside, especially to look up, like the top roof, how high up is that top roof line?
32 feet?
It's high. It's amazing. And, the building is so impressive. And of course, I just thought of the immediate appeal to all of our surrounding families, when they're considering sending their children to Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School, to have this showpiece as one important part of the campus is just tremendous. So thank you for your work and your role in making this happen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Student rep?
Alright, so for the class of 2025 prom committee, they would like to share that they'll be meeting on Tuesday to just begin planning the details of it, and including like the menu and just decorations and just the overall theme of prom. It's going to be held at Toccoa Country Club, which is in Westfield, on May 16th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. The ticket sales are going to be open to just seniors from April 7th to April 11th. And then it'll open it up to juniors and also seniors who haven't purchased them yet from April 14th to April 18th. Criminal Justice, they teamed up with a company called Cyber Aware. And Cyber Aware is teaching students how to help senior citizens or anyone stay safe in fraud and these digital scams like most of us have with the tolls. They send text messages just pretending to be the people from tolls saying, hey, you have an outstanding balance that you need to pay, click this link. So what Cyberware is doing is teaching us how to protect ourselves and others in the community. So 10th and 11th grade, we're actually going out to nursing homes to teach senior citizens how to protect themselves from these scams. If you guys know any organizations that would like to help teach us and help better the community, you guys can email Ms. Marciniak or Mr. Brewer.
I just want to jump in on this one. So this cyberware company, this was invented, they're currently in college, these individuals, and they started it while they were in high school. They're out of Connecticut. And they reached out to the school, and I was able to get them in touch with Kristen Marciniak and Jill Brewer. And I just want to congratulate them on doing the legwork to really build that relationship and then put this in as part of the curriculum. I think it's an excellent opportunity for our students to really go out in the community and help them. So, but again, this was a company that was created by high school students as part of their senior project. And then now they're in college and they're trying to grow the company. It's completely nonprofit, everything's free. We don't pay for any materials, they don't pay for any training. Everything is through donations and grants that they organize. So it's really nice company.
And very much needed, that kind of training.
Yes. And I'm very proud that our students are gonna be a part of that now and continue in our community.
Yeah, it definitely helps with actually like learning from someone that is closer in our age about cyber awareness and protecting ourselves from these scams. But CJ is also allowing students to go out once a month as a group during the school days to complete the community service hours. So in CJ, to graduate, you have to have 100 community service hours. So the services have to be organization-based and where they allow 24 students to participate. If you guys know any businesses or nonprofit organizations that would like to have us, you can also email Ms. Marciniak or Mr. Brewer.
Why the number 24?
Because that's the amount with the 2 grades combined
Gotcha.
that are in shop weeks. So to just have both of them go out at once.
Together to one project.
Yeah.
Got it, thanks.
So humanities, Mr. Mendelsohn would like to thank the PTO for approving his request for the funds to take his Spanish 2 class to Masa Mexicano in Florence later this spring. They will be learning about street food in Mexico and determining which aspects of their dining experience is similar or different to what it would be like in Mexico. Ms. Burke would also like to thank the PTO for continuing to help fund the Viking Rootstone Smith School Art and Literary Journal. This year, there's a record number of 22 writing submissions, thanks to the support of the English department. The librarian is participating in discussions and advocacy work to protect and preserve federal library funding, as well as discussions on how to regroup it if the funding is not preserved.
Which we heard about tonight.
Graphics, they're making great progress with their new customer service center, thanks to the help of cabinet making and electrical. Receiving the NEF grant at the end of last year was a great opportunity for them to upgrade their space. So they added the service center and they plan to have that up and running by the end of this school year. They said that it aligns really well with the fact that they're getting more and more community work as their students are producing great work and they're getting repeat customers on like a regular basis. They also received Guillotine Cutter Polar 66 Pro. It's currently in storage, but as they work with facilities to remove the old one, they'll be putting in the new one as soon as possible. And they would also like to thank the Perkins funds as they were able to make the upgrade to keep graphics in a step with industry standards.
Very good report, thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask a question about, not to put you on the spot, you may not have an answer for this at all. But there was a dance here, last week, I think. I saw some folks in Big Y who might have been coming here because they were dressed really nicely and getting flowers, just a guess. But, I was wondering, you know, as we get further and further away from the pandemic and some things that were pretty common before the pandemic maybe are now coming back into, you know, becoming common or popular again. So I was just curious. I was thinking of that dance as being, you know, you talked about the prom, of course, OG, but a dance like that, Was there interest in the dance? Was it well attended? Obviously, we've got students from so many sending communities, so it can be hard for them to get here, but also really important to have those social experiences. So I don't know if you can speak to any of that, but if you could, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so me personally, I didn't attend the dance, but I definitely had friends that showed up, and they said it was like wall to wall. Like everyone was interested in the dance and how decorative it was. And I think personally, from me hearing from the students, it was definitely a good dance, and it brought everyone together, and it was really enjoyable.
So glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
140.
Oh, wow.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion, a second, to approve the minutes of the February 11th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting.
So moved.
Second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right.
Aye.
I'd like to introduce Nate Bergeron, our department head of the phys ed and health departments, to give a brief department update and highlights of the phys ed and health departments.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nate Bergeron, phys ed teacher and department head. I've been here for 6 years, also coached the golf team and the baseball team. My department consists of myself, Ryan Delpena, Christine Flynn, and Jackie Dugan, who does health. Our department goal or our mission statement is to create a fun, safe, inclusive environment for students. We do this through a variety of team, individual games and activities that promote sportsmanship, movement, teamwork, and really just trying to living a healthy lifestyle. Some of the activities and units we do in PE class consist of ultimate ball, soccer, volleyball, team handball, badminton, pickleball, floor hockey, cornhole, fitness, ultimate frisbee, basketball, elementary games. Seems like a lot. It's a year-long program. So this is really just only a few of them that we do, but these are the ones that students enjoy the most, and we do these every single year. So some of the stuff Jackie does in health class, she goes over communication skills, healthy relationships, stuff on nutrition, suicide prevention, mental health, sex education. The biggest one lately, social media safe practices. Obviously, as social media becomes more and more relevant for our students, that's a big one. Alcohol and drugs, controlling emotions, and coping skills. I didn't put it on there, but Jackie also does our team building day with the freshmen at the beginning of the year. I think we've done that every year since COVID, just about, but it's a great way to get the freshmen kind of out of their shells. I mean, some of them don't know anyone here, coming from so many different districts. So it's kind of an all-day thing in the morning to just about lunchtime. They do a variety of things in teams and kind of get to know everyone and some of the faculty, which is great. It's been very successful over the last couple of years. The biggest thing that we've done recently is Elementary Week, trip down memory lane. So you probably remember some of these, the parachute scooters, Foursquare, variations of tag, capture the flag. For high school kids that are so mature and ready to get out of here, they really like this unit. I myself love doing this. Anytime we pull out the parachute, they go crazy, just like they were in elementary school again, which is great. And then the scooters in Foursquare. We've also seen it's been very good for students that are not traditional athletes. So this is a great time for them to kind of get out in the gym a little more and kind of let loose and have a lot of fun. So it's been very successful since we added this over last couple years. We added an initiative a couple years ago, PE All-Star of the Month. So basically we take one student from each grade level, so 4 in total each month. They get a t-shirt, their name announced, and then they get to attend a field trip at the end of the year. We kind of added this to kind of recognize students' hard work. It is not always just skill-based, definitely effort, relationship skills in class, how they communicate with the teachers and each other. But the students get very excited over the t-shirt. They wear it proudly around campus, which is great. And they definitely like having their name announced in the morning when we call it. So the field trip has been to Look Park the last couple of years. I kind of reached out to them years ago. They let us in for free, which is great. And we're able to play pickleball down there. Pickleball got added to our curriculum a couple of years ago, so this is a great way to collaborate kind of the outside resources we have, such as Look Park. And we've gone there to play pickleball. The kids love it. It's a great way to get some fresh air towards the end of the year. And all the students that you see before, you definitely earn that right to go play pickleball and have some fun outside of school. So the weight room and cardio room, we added some additions over the last couple of years. The picture on the left there is myself and Mr. Subak. We've had collectively about 12 kids every day after school in the weight room, which is great. Kind of a way for them to kind of incorporate fitness into their everyday life after school 3 days a week. And I have some connections to Planet Fitness. I worked there many years ago. So we were able to get 8 treadmills and 2 bikes added and replace some of the broken equipment. So it's not new equipment, but for us it is. But it's still in great shape. And it is commercial grade, so some of those treadmills are $2,000, $3,000 even. So this is a great donation by the local Planet Fitness and definitely utilized by us. So we end most of our units with a championship. As you can see here, we have a trophy with a tractor on it, very fitting for Smith Vocational. It's a great way to end a unit. Not only does it give the students a chance to kind of show off what they learned and their skills throughout the unit, it also definitely promotes sportsmanship. And the biggest thing lately is how to lose. I think kids struggle with that. Their emotions get the best of them. So this is a great way to kind of practice that in a safe setting. And the kids get very into it, obviously encourage their motivation. As you can see here, some of the bigger groups, smaller groups. So we try to end our units with that, which has been very successful, and the kids really seem to enjoy it. So improvements in the previous 6 years since I've been here. New cardio room equipment. We're actually lucky enough on Wednesday next week. We're going to pick up 7 more bikes from Planet Fitness. They were nice enough to donate since they're renovating one of their clubs. So we're going to pick those up, and it should replace pretty much everything that's in there. Created a school-wide curriculum for health and PE that is relevant, fun, engaging, and grade skill level appropriate. We started that PE All-Star program and field trip. We added a new smart board in the gym. So if you haven't seen that, basically PE and myself put announcements, highlights throughout the day, and then at 2:12 at the end of the day, I switch over to athletics. So during the basketball season, we were able to put highlights for basketball and kind of promote the public that is coming in a little more professional way with that smart board, which is great. And then the golf team, myself, Mr. Parks, and our athletic director, Mr. LaRoe, were able to start that. We had a full team last year. We already have a lot of interest in students asking about it in the future, which is great because if you look at Westfield Tech, Franklin Tech, all the other schools in the area, they've had golf teams for a while. So this is kind of great to get up to speed, and the kids really enjoyed it that were on the team. So what's next? We have a lot to do still. I plan on being here for a long time and really like to keep building the program and help with athletics. Looking at 4 square courts outside of B building. Mr. Bianca and I already talked about this previously, so hopefully get the ball rolling on that. We kind of do 4 square without the field lately, or if it's a really nice day, it's a great opportunity for us to go get some fresh air and the kids really enjoy it. We'd like to continue to update our curriculum every year. Their students change and become more diverse. I feel it's important to stay with the trends and what they're enjoying. We'd love to upgrade the rest of the cardio equipment, which looks like it's happening next week. We'd love to talk about a coaches committee for advisory, possibly having current coaches as well as previous players or previous coaches on that advisory night, discuss athletics, sharing resources, and how we can better our athletics here and support our not only coaches but our players as well. And the big one, just kind of throwing it out there, air conditioning in the gym. It gets hot in there at the end of the year. It would obviously increase student movement. They wouldn't be sweating and complaining as much. And it would just be a more comfortable and safe environment for athletics after school, especially in the fall too. It gets a little toasty in there towards the end of the year. Questions or comments? Feel free to stop by the gym anytime, poke your head in. We do a lot of fun stuff. If you ever wanted, you can join in on any of the games. If you don't know how to play them, the students can teach you because they know all the rules. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add a couple things. You know, Mr. Bergeron's done a great job for us, and I want to highlight the freshman team building. You know, one of the original, we had tasked out a group to write that curriculum for that day, and Mr. Bergeron was part of that group that wrote the initial freshman leadership. And I just want to highlight the PE All-Stars and the improvements in the lobby. Those mean a lot to the students, and the PE department and Mr. Bergeron have done a great job really building that culture in there and doing what they can to bring up the professionalism, but the student, different ways that the students can participate as opposed to just sort of the traditional PE stuff. So they're really reaching a lot of students. They've done a great job in there. So we're really lucky to have Tim and his team.
Second that.
The air conditioning has been, for B building, has been on our radar for a while, rest assured.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, we recognize how important that would be. And having PE is well loved by students here across, throughout all the grades, which is quite a reflection of the program that you run, as Mr. Bianca just said. From my perspective, it's so essential to students' social and emotional well-being at school, where they have a PE class that is really fun, where they can play and interact across shops and genders and all of that in really fun ways. And it's not easily done. It has a lot of thought and intention has to go into it.
Sure.
So well done.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thanks. All right,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you. Joe, you wanna do your report?
Yeah, good evening. So currently we are sitting at 584 students. Our application season has ended. That, for all intents and purposes, ends with out-of-district students, that application of March 15th. But we will continue to be obtaining the tuition forms through April 1st. Applications will get processed over the coming weeks, and all that is on track to be distributed out just prior to April break. I want to thank Graphics who printed the envelopes. They're working on some other items that are part of the package that goes out to the students, congratulating them and offering them their seat. Currently, you can see we have 320 applications with 65 from Northampton. And then there's an additional 40 applications for grades 10 and 11 with 7 from Northampton.
Is that high?
Yeah, that 360 total is high.
And
is a
the
high
40,
number.
like mid,
That's high, 40 for
Transfer
10th and
students.
11th grade
Yeah.
is high. We don't have a lot of seats. We probably only have
a handful.
1 to 3, 1 to 4, so that's pretty competitive. I didn't report the March last year, so I don't have that number for you. But you can see the track of applications at the end of the season there from March. You can see in COVID was 210, so now we're 320 plus 40. I do want to congratulate, we had our skills district test that took place, so based on the scores the students get, they're awarded gold, silver, or bronze, with gold and silver moving on to compete at the state level. So we do have 12 students that are competing with 5 gold. Congratulate Katarina Ross Perkins, Salem Lucian, Brian Arell, Mike Therio, Mike Tarot, Riley Whalen, and then 6 silver, Shayna Pachuki, Saul Perez, Brandon Diaz, who was formerly one of our student reps, Kaylin Fedora, Chandler Woodward, Keegan Aaron Kachopsky, and then we have 1 bronze who qualified for the state, that's Dylan Sanchez. And then we have 6 other bronze recipients, Connor Lassie, Emma O'Sullivan, Logan Hodges, Aiden Nugent, Caitlin Willard, and Andre Latour. So if any of your questions, that's my report for this evening.
What is the Internet of Things?
That's actually in the electric.
That's
in the
I was gonna ask what
electricity
chocolate
shop.
was, okay.
Yep, yeah. I don't know the actual competition of that. With that
But it's
piqued
connected.
Yeah, I had to do a little research to figure out where that lived because it was strange to me.
Yeah.
But it
the
has to
others.
do with, it has to do with the electrical wiring.
Thank you. Committee report?
Yeah. The negotiations subcommittee held its first bargaining session with Unit D on March 4th, and we have several more sessions on the calendar. The policy subcommittee met on March 12th to finalize the proposed new technology acceptable use policy and the updated policy on vocational shop services and sales. Both of these are in your meeting materials, and we will be voting to adopt them tonight. The technology acceptable use changes were driven by a request from Google for blanket approval for student use of all of their apps, a desire to simplify the language so that it's more easily understood by students and employees, and the need to integrate several existing policies into one. Proposed changes to the policy on vocational shop services and sales are driven by the fact that these costs are not being covered by the current rates being charged to customers and the interest in having a consistent policy across all 15 shops. I want to thank Dr. Lincoln Hooker, Mr. Bianca, Mr. Shearer, Ms. Chartier, and Mr. Parks for their work with the subcommittee to revise these two policies. The D-Building Strategic Planning Subcommittee met on March 19th. We reviewed the multi-stage plan that was presented to the board at the retreat last summer, identified tasks that have already been completed, and discussed next steps. And one of those is to invite a representative from the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools to our next subcommittee meeting so that we can learn more about the process of regionalization, since it may or may not be an option under consideration in the future.
Thank you. Tim?
Just a couple of things. We did a walkthrough today with contractors for the next phase of the sidewalk repair or replacement. So we had 6 companies show up. We had 19 packages go out. The heat recovery system that we're going to put in C building should get advertised within the next couple of weeks. And that's about it.
Thank you. Crystal?
Well, the most important thing, and I'm disappointed that it's not in my report, is our cafeteria won the DESI's Terrific Tray of the Month last month. And Heather and her crew, they do such a great job. The picture of the presentation, I'll make sure I include it for next month because, again, they do such a great job. They use the funds that pay for some of that unfortunately come from the Northeast Food for Schools grant that has been discontinued. And so that leads to the next, the bullet on my report, that we received $4,700 from that grant for the past 2 years. And that money helped Heather use local farmers and local, just local farmers and different food vendors in surrounding districts. She used some ranging from western New York to northern Vermont and other surrounding districts in the west. So unfortunately, that's a little disappointing. I did include the final end of year report, FY24 financial report. There were 2 findings. Those 2 findings have been corrected and submitted to DESI. We have an increase in Title IIA for FY25 allocation. The allocation adjustment has been increased. ESSER, I have a webinar on ESSER 3 where they're collecting the last round of information and data from us because we did not do the extension, so that will be our last report. And we are getting ready to send, work on the 4th, which are invoices, which are the special ed invoices, and that will be our last round of invoices for this.
Can you explain what is meant by the Title IIA fiscal year 25 allocation adjustment increase of $182?
Of course. So towards the, right around February, March, DESI or the feds will go and give allocation adjustments. So sometimes it's an increase. We normally will get an increase in Title I, Title IIA, and IDEA.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Title IIA is the only increase we've received so far.
And what does Title IIA fund?
Title IIA is more professional development. Sometimes it gives it some stipends for teachers. Mike Parks knows it.
Yeah, so it pays for the mentor stipends for the new teachers. It also pays for all the PLC facilitators, the co-facilitators, that's our professional development model for the year. And it also pays for a lot of the teacher-funded PD that they get sent out. It pays for conference registration fees, travel reimbursement, things to that effect. It's approximately $17,000, $18,000 depending on the year. It's been steadily going down over the last few years, but that's the bulk of where the money.
So is this, it's an increase of $182 on $17,000?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's maybe a couple hours of someone's time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So that means that there's no increase in the other two, in Title I or IDEA?
We have not heard anything, so I'm assuming no.
And 7 or 8 years ago, it was 24,000, so it has been,
Yeah.
talking about a 7,000.
Wow,
Almost 1,000 a year.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Under new business, may I have a motion and a second to approve the out-of-state field trip to Johnson and Wales University's Culinary Arts and Hospitality Program in Dining Commons on April 7th, 2025.
So
moved.
you go.
All right, so moved.
Seconded with a recommendation for everyone here to get there if you can and eat. It's phenomenal and the drive is beautiful.
I'm sure. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. May I have a motion and a second to approve amending the shop rate policy?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to have either Dr. Lincoln-Hooker or Mr. Bianca just give an overview for them.
I'll start and I'll turn over to Mr. Bianca. Really, my opening is thanking Mr. Bianca and Ms. Chartier. A lot of this work was, the purpose behind this, the genesis behind this was the budget that we're going to begin to talk about this evening. You know, we're entering sort of the season with all of our colleagues across the Commonwealth with budgets becoming very tight. And we have to do our best to find other revenue sources to continue to support the school. And as Dr. Spencer Robinson mentioned earlier, you know, our shops oftentimes are open to the public, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can, not to be in the business to make money and to compete with the general industry out in the community, but we have to do what's fair for our shops as well. So I want to thank Mr. Bianca and Ms. Chartier for basically benchmarking, going out and talking to all of our colleagues across the state, the other vocational schools, what do they do within their shops for their policies and practices. They brought all of that back to the subcommittee, and some great discussion within the subcommittee, and that's what you see this evening. So that's sort of the overview, Mr. Bianca.
I think you summed it up well. If there's any specific questions, I can answer.
So you can see the changes are in red. It's at the end of the policy. It's really getting to the specifics of what we can charge and the rates of that. The only other addition I think I'll probably want to comment on, and again, Mr. Bianca can clarify even more, is that last paragraph. The idea behind that is that many of our shops, we want to give most of our shops the opportunity to sell various items from this shop, but it has to be industry standard. So as an example, I've often used cosmetology as an example. If you go to a salon to get your hair done or whatnot, you may have an opportunity to purchase product. You might have the opportunity to purchase perhaps the hair dryer that's being used on you. You really like the hair dryer, you might have that opportunity. So we want to provide that opportunity for cosmetology as one example. And you can go through each of these shops. Where that line is and why we say industry standard. The other example that we use is oftentimes in carpentry. So you may have a general contractor working on your house and you really like the tools that he or she is using. The standard isn't that you ask the carpenter, hey, you know, can I buy that saw off of you, or can you get that saw for me? That doesn't really happen in practice, so that would not be an opportunity for carpentry. But carpentry might be able to make some products and sell them. A lot of our shops might be able to produce t-shirts, you know, shop t-shirts and sell them. You see that oftentimes in various shops. So we're trying to find opportunities for the shops to be creative and creating more revenue. Obviously that list, as per the proposed draft policy, would be approved at the administrative level to make sure that everything that is being sold is appropriate. So
I think I will just to give some context. So the $50 shop fee, we're allowed to charge shop fees, and percentage of markup is finding the parts and the supplies. But what we're hearing from our shop instructors is that their material costs are going up 7 to 11% last year. So, you know, and taking that into consideration, we're trying to give them the ability, like Dr. Lincoln said, to make the money. It's really to break even. All that money goes back into the instructional revolving. So to give you an example, we have students that are learning. Recently, we had a job in collision repair. Students prepped it, painted it, had the piece done at the quote that they gave but unfortunately then our students had an error putting that piece onto the vehicle. That piece had to then come back off and had to be completely redone. And we can't charge the customer twice because they're learning. So part of this is trying to build that cushion in for mistakes and the practice that they're doing. So we may be funding the work that and practice that they're doing to get ready to finally do that customer work. But it's once that happens, there's just no way that we could fund inadvertent mistakes or things as they're learning. And we certainly can't pass that. You know, we're not going to charge a customer twice. In the example of cosmetology, their fees are set by the cosmetology board, so a lot of this wouldn't affect them. But then to Dr. Lincolnhofer's point, why are we adding in the second paragraph about being able to sell items? Again, they might want to buy that curling iron or the hair dryer or other materials and other things that they're going to use, and that can help cosmetology build in some of those funds also. Those mannequin heads cost $70 a piece that they practice on. And up. So, I mean, vocational ed is very expensive as you're trying to get these students ready to actually work with and on customers. So that's the genesis of a lot of this, is trying to help them close some of that gap.
And I would just echo what Dr. Lincoln Hooker said about the amount of work that Mr. Bianca and Ms. Jardier put into providing the information. Like they surveyed all the area schools and what the practices are from shop to shop to shop. And there was a lot of variability, just like there was on campus as well. And so this provides consistency across campus, and then that added practice of the items for sale is common. You know, our students are gonna go out, and many of them will be small business owners, and so this is more of that real world practice for them.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I have a second motion and a second to approve amending the technology acceptable use policy?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this a new policy or?
Dr. Lincoln Hooker, do you wanna take it on?
I'll do my best.
It's a compliment.
It's amended.
Okay.
To answer that question,
Okay.
it's easier just to go with the whole draft rather than a whole bunch of red ink. Okay, so that's probably why you don't see the red ink on this particular copy. As Dr. Spencer Robinson mentioned in her committee report, I want to thank Mr. Shear, who's the IT director, had all of these questions that he had to have answered. A lot of different documents on campus that pertain to technology use, and his vision was to try to consolidate everything into more of a centralized policy that we can sort of get our hands on. So again, that's where this is coming from. I'm not sure if Mr. Bianca.
There was one document that was one board document, one document on the website, and another document that students and employees signed. So it was Mr. Shear's effort to integrate all of those together, and we crosswalked it with the MASC policy on acceptable use, which was super helpful. But Mr. Shear especially had an eye to making this easily understood by the people who are signing it, and any of us who are parents and have had our students have to sign off on things, and also employees. You know, it makes sense. You know, it's thorough for sure, but also people understand what they're signing.
So,
The original-
sorry. MPS is also looking at this, with all the executive orders that are coming to us. There was also a mention of reviewing, the Children's Internet Protection Act. So I don't know if there will be some changes coming around, but just be aware that this is a topic of conversation. That's why we were also looking at our policies. I like how this is streamlined. It's very helpful.
Yeah, the original policy was like 7 or 8 pages, and but a lot of it that you see sort of gone, it's really maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs became 1 sentence. I mean, the original technology use policy was really explaining what technology and the internet is, and a lot of other things that are just it's kind of the need for that is obsolete. So we're working off of a general assumption that people know what the computers and internet and Wi-Fi and things like that are, and then really just trying to hit the brass tacks, what does really matter in that, and Mr. Shear's done a tremendous job.
I especially appreciate in this draft, this latest draft, the underlining of those points that the emails may become evidence in legal proceedings, and it extends to the use of social media. And there's no expectation of privacy when using district technology. That can't be made clear enough to employees as well as students, and this really accomplishes that.
The other thing is, over the years, a lot of times when specific issues have come up involving the board and the school in general, and do you have a policy for that? And if you have a policy, then that all of a sudden is a barrier or a stopgate to the question. Because what was happening in the past, we didn't have a policy. And then we had to create a policy. But all the hard work that you do, Joe, and with your staff, has really brought this together. And just the dialogue here is excellent to be able to cross the T's and dot the I's, and I compliment you too. So, again, I'll ask, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Just very quickly, so you also in this policy address AI usage, which is, okay, so that's very nice. And what about student directory? Is that a separate
So that's
policy?
another agenda item for the future.
Oh, okay.
Are you clairvoyant?
No, we're all feeling the same stressors and working on the same policies. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm ready. Okay, thank you. See, okay.
We have draft language from our council.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So when we write these questions, we're not using AI, but we are talking about. So again, further discussion, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to approve and cover the cost for the senior banquet for the vocational teachers and trustees? The cost is $42 per person, and I don't know who wants to talk about that.
So moved.
Second.
No further discussion?
But I can give some background. This has become an annual agenda item for the board. Just a couple updates. One good thing is, as we know, student enrollment has been increasing, and we've basically outgrown the garden house at Whit Park. So we are now going to be, the senior class has reserved the Union Station, so it's a larger facility. So that's where this particular senior banquet will be held. As in the past, it's been difficult for us to explain to the senior class that you have to raise money to create enough revenue to support all of the vocational instructors, administrators, trustees who attend this particular senior banquet. So in the past, the trustees have felt it was the right thing to do, would be to cover the cost for the vocational instructors who have to attend. This is really a shop-based event for the seniors, along with the administrative team that goes and any trustees that go. I'd also want to mention, we typically also cover the senior class advisors as well, and some guidance staff, I believe, too.
And it's not just a senior banquet with shop teachers. I mean, the shop teachers put in a fair amount of preparation for that banquet, because every person every senior in their shops is recognized by that shop teacher, not just verbally, but also with some kind of memento or, you know, some other kind of like physical recognition as well. There's a lot of work that goes in on they're working at the banquet.
So I don't have a total, but I can very quickly get a sort of a head count and then report back to the trustees, but it would be $42 per plate.
Well, I think that's a reasonable cost, and we have brought this up in the past, and I think it's a benefit for the instructors to take their time out and provide their expertise in overseeing this affair. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. Andy, you're up.
Okay, so my little prelude into the presentation is that I am not going to ask the trustees to vote on the FY26 budget this evening, really for one reason, one major reason. We apply some sub-votes to that, but we do not have a tuition rate from the state as of today, which is unfortunate. I want to thank Ms. Fairman, who's been hounding Desi over the last several weeks. She was promised that we'd have a rate by the end of last week. This is now Tuesday and there's still no rate. So I'll leave it alone at that point, okay?
So it's particularly late?
This is very late, yes. So I am gonna proceed and sort of give the board an overview of where we stand and some of the, call them, bumpers, barriers I sort of imposed on Mr. Bianca and Ms. Fairman, some assumptions that we've made. And my hope this evening is to have a discussion, open up to the board. It's really our last chance to present to you as the Board of Trustees and have all of you vote on it per city policy at our next meeting. So the April 8th meeting, we have to have a vote. I would love to make sure that I have your priorities set and very clear. So when we do come back and present the budget on April 8th, I've taken your priorities into account. Okay, so that's really my purpose this evening. Okay, I'm going to go through the presentation. We're going to talk about some of the numbers that we know, some of the numbers that we're assuming, to sort of paint a picture of what we're looking at. Okay, obviously it could all change if the tuition rate comes in a lot higher or a lot lower, but we'll get to that in a few moments. So a lot of this report I already shared last month, again with the hopes of streamlining this particular presentation. So a lot of these slides I'm going to skim over. You know who we are, the mission statement, again, as a reminder, our catchment area, the map I think is really useful for us to see where the students come from and keep that in the back of our mind. I'm not going to go through a lot of these demographics. This is all public information from the Department of Ed per the October 1 SIMS data. Again, as a reminder, comparing us to the other Western Mass regional voc schools. This is one slide I do want to just stop and point out as we get into the budget. I want the board to really understand. The upper left-hand corner is the student enrollment as of October 1. It was 587 students. I think Mr. Bianca's report was about 584 as of today, so it fluctuates. But officially, it was 587 as of October 1. If you move to the right, upper right, this is what we're trying to build a budget off of. And we are assuming we're going to be close to 600, probably about 594 next school year. That's only an increase of +7. When we get into the budget, we are looking at increasing the non-resident student count by 2. That's probably the smallest increase that I have seen since I've been here. We're only looking at +7 students. So will we get 2 additional non-resident students? Will it be more Northampton students? We don't really know. As you heard from Mr. Bianca's report, we're sort of eyeballs deep in the admissions and application review process. But the fact that we are basically level, okay, with our enrollment, we can anticipate that the budget's also going to begin to level out. And I think this particular slide illustrates that really well. So please keep that in mind. Admissions, I think I just want to get on the soapbox. I want to thank Dr. Spencer Robinson for mentioning her testimony that she submitted for the admissions regulations changes. If you had a chance to read the newsletter that went out last week, I had the opportunity to sort of share my own thoughts. Just for the board to understand, the proposal is a weighted lottery, which is different than a minimum criteria lottery, which was the Department of Ed's initial proposal was a minimum criteria lottery. They moved away from that. They are now proposing a weighted lottery. As Dr. Spencer Robinson mentioned, DESE is recommending that a school that offers a minimum of 2 open houses in 3 virtual sessions, a school that does that would have the opportunity to include student interest as what I call the gatekeeper. So if a school is able to offer 2 open houses, the 3 virtual sessions, and we can imagine the cost to put on a second open house along with the virtual sessions, if we're able to sort of tackle that, on the application, there could be several check boxes asking how the student has achieved that student interest component. If a student does not meet that student interest component, the application would be deemed not complete, and thus that student's application would not go into the lottery. That's why I call that the gatekeeper. Okay, so you achieve the student interest, you're in the lottery. You don't achieve student interest, you're out of the lottery. Okay, so that's sort of the first proposal. Beyond that, everybody who completes an application goes into the lottery. They get a ticket into the lottery. In reality, in practice, okay, if we don't change, if we maintain our 1 open house, okay, we aren't able to do the student interest measurement, which means everybody who applies to Smith Vocational would have their name go into the lottery. They get 1 ticket. Beyond that, as Dr. Spencer Robinson mentioned, the Department of Ed is looking at attendance and discipline as the weighted lottery. So if an applicant is below the threshold in attendance, okay, in their 7th and 8th grade years, if they don't have too many absences, then they would get, in essence, a second ticket into the lottery. It'd be extra weight. In a discipline, as the recent regulations a few years ago, if a student does not have the major infractions, okay, the major disciplines such as drugs, weapons, assaulting a staff person, chronic, 10 days or more suspension in a given year. If a student doesn't meet that serious discipline, that student would have a third ticket go into the lottery. So you get one ticket for simply completing application, you get a second ticket if you are okay with the attendance, you get a third ticket if you're okay with discipline. In reality, how many 7th and 8th graders have major discipline like that? So chances are most students would have at least 2, if not the 3 tickets. So that's the proposal. My testimony, as I mentioned in the newsletter, is that my recommendation is that we flip the student interest in discipline. I strongly feel that the discipline should be the gatekeeper. If an applicant has, not too many students, if an applicant has that serious discipline infractions at the middle school level, I feel that student should not have the opportunity to apply to a vocational school for all the reasons that Dr. Spencer Robinson mentioned around safety in the shops. I feel that should be the gatekeeper. Once you get over that, then I can support the attendance and I can support the student interest if the school is able to do that. I think those two variables should be the weight. So that's my recommendation, that's what I'm putting forward. But as a board, we have to recognize that this change won't impact this budget that we're talking about this evening, but it could very well impact next year's budget. The other push, and I've been talking to Representative Sabadosa, she's submitting testimony, and she's focusing on this other issue, which is around the lottery. Technically, according to the regulation proposal, schools have to take all of the member district applicants first. If there's too many applicants from within the district, then you do a lottery. And only after that, then you do a lottery for the non-resident students. That's per the regulations. That's not how we do the practice. Okay, technically, it's kind of how the regulations are already written, okay? Us here at Smith and the other Aggies, we do it slightly different because we know as an Aggie, we have a lot of non-resident students pursuing us for the Aggies. There should be some type of exception. We're pushing hard on that. Our recommendation is that we do a lottery for the Northampton applicants, and we try to offer the first 30 seats through the lottery to the Northampton students. That mirrors our current admissions policy that we give the first 30 slots to Northampton. We would do that first. My recommendation then would be a second lottery for all of the non-resident applicants and try to fill the remaining 120 slots, okay, assuming the first 30 went to Northampton. If we can't fill the other 120 applicants from the non-resident communities, we could then go back to Northampton, the rest of the applicant pool, do another lottery to try to fill the 150. That's my recommendation. I think the other Aggies are sort of along the same lines, same discussions. But if we don't do that, we see the number of applicants from Northampton.
Yeah.
And I'm telling the state, you will destroy 2 districts, okay?
Exactly.
You will destroy us here at Smith, because as we all know, and you're gonna get into it a little bit later here in the presentation, unfortunately, there's less revenue attached to a Northampton student attending Smith Vocational versus the non-resident student, okay? So if we expand the Northampton enrollment here at Smith, that's gonna negatively impact our budget. At the same time, that means if we take more Northampton students, unfortunately, Dr. Bonner is gonna have less enrollment, okay, in NPS, which then means there's gonna be less Chapter 70 money, there'll be less of a budget for NPS. So in essence, they're destroying 2 districts if we have to follow through on that, so.
And so in terms of how should I write our letter on behalf of MPS? Because
I will share what I have.
65 students would decimate our 9th grade class.
Yes. Okay, so I'll get off my high horse, but that's around admissions, okay? I just want the board to understand that that is coming down the pipeline. Back to the budget. So a lot of these slides we've seen over the last several years, okay? This slide here, I really I think, illustrates the dwindling enrollment in Western Mass, which we have to keep in mind long-term, what's happening with our enrollment in the applicant pool. All the things that we have done, obviously the vision that we've had with science, the horticulture building, which we're getting towards the finish line, D-building, I want to thank Dr. Spencer Robinson for highlighting the recent subcommittee meeting. Now we're into the budget. So this chart illustrates the non-resident tuition rate over the last 5 fiscal years. The FY26 is an estimate. So we are using a 3% increase to build this proposed budget. As you can see from FY22 to FY26, so including this estimate of 3% increase, overall it's been a 3.55% annual increase over the last 5 years. So I think the 3% is conservative. I feel comfortable with this budget I'm presenting tonight that I think we're within the ballpark. But before FY22, I have to remind the board there was 1 year where the tuition rate actually went down. So I don't see that happening, but that's why we're holding our breath, and that's why I don't want the board to vote on a budget this evening until we truly have a tuition rate.
Which year was that?
FY 19, 18, 19, somewhere in that range.
And do you know what? What the,
That was recession years, like you just pointed, that's
no, 18?
18.
It was in somewhere in that.
I want to say it was 18. It's a formula that they use. So they use, they take bits and pieces from the year-end report, and then they take numbers from the state budget. Rob O'Donnell explained it, because I tried to work on it myself 1 year because they were late.
Yeah.
And he said it's just really complicated where they take all the different numbers. So.
Was it when Kevin Fry was here?
No,
Or was it after?
I want to say it was that
It went from about 18.5 to 16.5. So it was quite a bit. $600,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we have to, again, right now, this is monopoly money with this assumption, but I think this will get us within a ballpark of what we will anticipate from the state when it does come out. Assuming that 3% is an accurate number, that means FY26, we're looking at a $14.5 million overall budget. Okay, that would be an increase of $543,000. That would be an overall percent increase of a 3.88% increase in the overall budget. I just want to, again, highlight the trend. Back in FY23, we had just over an 8% increase. And again, that was when we were really trying to increase enrollment. As the enrollment is getting closer to 600, as I mentioned earlier, it's beginning to sort of flatline. And that's why you see these percentages going down, going from 8 down to 5.4, down to 3.9, and potentially 3.88 for this coming year. Again, this will fluctuate once we have the official number. So some highlights, and this is where the discussion I think will come into play. So as you just saw, we are assuming a budget increase of about 3.88% overall. And again, this proposed budget is based on a 3% non-resident tuition rate increase. I mentioned this earlier, the non-resident students, we're only budgeting +2 non-resident students. And again, I think that's the smallest number I've ever seen, whether it's principal or superintendent. And I just want to remind the board that the tuition revolving account, so that's the account, any surplus tuition money that comes in that we haven't spent in that particular fiscal year goes into the tuition revolving account. That account we use for any number of things. One of them happens to be the transportation contract for our Northampton students. And assuming that 3% non-resident tuition rate, it would take 7.94 non-resident students this coming year to cover the cost of that contract. So again, that's money that we can't count on in the operating budget because we have to set it aside to cover that contract. So again, another constriction. Here's where the fun discussion comes. What you will see, and I'll highlight within the budget document in a little bit, but for the most part, we are looking at level funding most of our material and equipment. Basically material, supplies, equipment, those particular lines in the budget, we are looking at level funding. And I want to remind the board, level funding doesn't mean equal, okay? It does mean equal as far as the dollar figure. You'll see no increase, no decrease in many of these lines, but as you've heard countless times, the cost of doing business, the cost of purchasing supplies is going through the roof. So if we level fund, if we give the same amount of money this year to next year, in essence, that means it's less, okay? Our shops will have less material in front of them to teach our students. On the academic side, there may be less supplies for the academic classroom. That's what we're looking at for this year. The counter to the level funding could be a level services. And I just want to highlight to the board what that would mean. A level services is basically what we have as far as supplies, that experience, okay, this year, we would want to replicate that opportunity next year. But to replicate that, that means more money because the costs are going up. So that's the difference between level funding, level services. We are looking at basically level funding for the most part. And we'll get into the weeds a little bit more. But that's a concern, obviously. You know, how sustainable is a budget if we continue to get into this trend of level funding?
Level funding essentially equals decreased services.
Yes, thank you. That's the big takeaway. I mean, this next bullet here, the completion of the horticultural rebuild, this is always in the back of my mind. I want to make sure we have the money available to complete that building. That has been a stressor. As you heard from Craig earlier tonight, that stressor is becoming minimized to the point where we may have some contingency funds to reallocate, which is a great conversation that the board will have to have hopefully in the next few months. But it's always in the back of my mind. I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to complete that particular project. As we've sort of alluded to, we have some concerns around federal funding, what may happen at the federal level. My bigger concern is what will happen indirectly, okay, at the state level. And I may have said this last month, but the state's budget is about $65 billion, and $16 billion of that comes from the feds. So while I am optimistic that the feds may not cut directly any direct federal funds to the schools, I do believe that there may be a negative impact on the state budget with the federal funds. You know, when the state has to balance a budget and make their budget work, what's that shell game look like, and what is the fallout for the schools? That is a concern of mine, and we'll see how that plays out. What I need your input on is sort of these big variables, okay? This is, in essence, for the administrative team, for me as a superintendent, to stand here in front of the board and present a budget that is balanced, and that will happen next month. These are the variables that we have to play with and figure out that balance. One is staffing, okay? One is the extraordinary maintenance. That's a particular line item that we've used over the last few years for all of the improvements around campus, shy of the capital improvement money that we've gotten from the city. Sort of a sustainability line account that we've had. As you see in the presentation, we've done a lot over the last several years. So to be transparent, there's probably not a whole lot of new projects that are still on the docket. There's always things. But this line also helps us if something bad happens and we have to fix something. Let's go back. But right now, the budget that we're looking at, we are putting a $0 budget for extraordinary maintenance, which is concerning. So we have to look at that. The next one I've already mentioned is supplies and materials. We're basically level funding the supplies and materials, whether the board supports that or not. And then lastly, as you know, we're in unity contract negotiations, and we have to keep that in mind. So these are the big issues that we have to figure out between now and, in essence, April 8th. I already mentioned the $0 going to extraordinary maintenance. Right now, the budget that I have in front of you, we are not looking at cutting any positions at this point. Is that a priority or not for the board? Again, by saving staff, to save staff, we have to cut back on extraordinary maintenance. We have to level fund the supplies and materials, and we have to keep in mind unity contract. If we think extraordinary maintenance is that important, if we feel that we need to up the supplies and materials, if we need to make sure that we have enough set aside for the contract negotiations, then we have to look at staffing. It's this shell game that we have to play, and I want to make sure that I speak on behalf of the board when we're finalizing this budget.
Where would air conditioning for B building, that wouldn't be considered extraordinary?
That's part of the capital improvement plan with the city. So that would not be part of this budget.
So has it been included in the capital improvement?
I believe it is. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I just want to support the mayor. This has been the mayor's mantra for, ever since I listened to you talk about Chapter 70 and net school spending. This sort of highlights the predicament that the city of Northampton is in when you look at Smith. So the Chapter 70, this is public money coming in from the state through the city, and it comes here obviously to support the Northampton students here at Smith. You can see the change from FY25, the current year, to the projection for next year, FY26, is only an increase of 2.06%. When you look at net school spending, that's the NSS, that is the overall bucket that has to be used to educate the Northampton students here at Smith Vocational. And I'll talk about how that bucket is filled in the next slide. But if you look at the comparison between FY25 and FY26, it's an increase of 12.41%. So basically what the state is saying is, okay, Northampton, Smith needs an increase of 12.41% to fill that bucket. But we're only going to give you a 2% increase. So where is the additional increase? It comes from the city of Northampton. Okay, so it's a difficult spot for the city. Okay.
2 school districts.
Yeah.
Yes. So more of an explanation of net school spending, as I already mentioned. Net school spending is that bucket. You fill it by initially whatever the Chapter 70 formula dictates. That comes from the state. Then you have to add in a local contribution. So in our case, that's the city of Northampton. That then equals that state directed amount, which they call net school spending. This coming year, Chapter 70, so the money from the state is about $953,000. Net school spending overall is about $4.5 million. That means Northampton has to contribute, is contributing about $3.6 million to Smith for the Northampton students. What does the $3.6 million include? Because a lot of people may think that $3.6 million is in the operating budget for all the variables I've already mentioned. It's partially true. The community and the board have to remember that of that $3.6 million, some of that goes back to the city for various indirect costs. Okay, so that money we see, but then we don't see. Okay, it's to support the services that we receive from the city. Then there's any additional contributions that the city provides. And then this year, back to the AC project, we've been approved for $635,000 of capital projects. That goes into that bucket. Okay, and as a reminder, capital projects that are less than $150,000 can be included in the net school spending bucket. And that's what Northampton has typically done. If we have a project that we need, as long as it's below $150,000, sometimes we get it approved, and it helps the city because they can use that project in meeting net school spending. Okay, which is great. I don't want to frown upon $635,000 worth of capital projects. We need these projects. Okay, and those projects are being funded by the city. If they weren't funded by the city, we have to figure out how to pay for them. So I want to thank the city. The flip side to that is that's $635,000 that is not in the operating budget. So it's being used for capital projects that need to happen, but it means it's not there to pay for teachers and supplies and materials and everything we've already talked about. Again, it's the shell game. At the end of the day, when you look at the indirect costs, you look at the additional contributions, you look at all the capital money that the city thankfully is supporting, the city is just shy of $80,000 over net school spending, okay, over that minimum requirement. So the city is above that. Questions on that?
The $635,000 that funds the capital projects, is that property tax revenue, or does it come from a different funding source?
It comes from many different funding sources, but
Including property taxes?
well, only if it's from like free cash that's left over and then is put into, let's say, like a capital stabilization account or one of the stabilization accounts where we pull that from. And there's a little bit of cash capital that has been built into the operating budget.
So what are some examples of the funding for that aren't property taxes?
So capital stabilization, we do borrowing, they're all, if you look in the capital project, it lists all the different funding sources.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's grants, mostly it's capital stabilization or free cash, undesignated fund balance, things like that. What are one-time funding sources as opposed to recurring?
So with that said, I think in front of you, you do have the budget documents. I just want to highlight a couple lines, and again, not that it's monopoly money, but this isn't official because we don't have the tuition rate, but I just want to highlight a few things. This first page, I think the cover sheet is a quick summary of the revenue sources and then the expenses. And you can see in green, that's this current fiscal year. The yellow is what we're proposing for FY26.
Very quickly, so you sent this presentation to us, so it's electronic.
Oh, but
It's
you
not in
printed
your
it out.
packet.
Okay.
I thought you were saying, but then I'm seeing it.
I saw something I thought would maybe.
I printed
Okay.
my hard copy.
So I will just verbally share. Next month on April 8th, we'll go basically line by line, okay? But I just want to highlight a couple of things that I've been trying to explain over the last couple of months. One is the first page of expenses. You're going to see it's actually in other district admin. It's public relations. This is one line that Mr. Bianca and I joke, and I was confronted by some colleagues about how lucky we must be that we have a money set aside for public relations, marketing, basically. And my response is, I wish we didn't have to have a budget line for marketing. But I just want to point out, last year, you as a board approved a $12,000 line for public relations. You then see there's a purple column, it's the FY25 approved amended budget, and you see it went up just over 8,000. That's because after the board approved, there was an amendment. This 8,000 came from the city, additional, and we felt that was a line that we wanted to apply that additional money. So that's why we have an amended budget. That's why you see an increase. But as then you can move into the yellow columns, you see that we're proposing to go back to the 12,000. Okay, so it may be a decrease, but in reality, it's what we were budgeting anyways until that last minute change. So that's just one thing I wanted to highlight. On page 5, if you have it, on page 5 is all of the instructional materials for all of the shops and all of the academic areas. And as you can see, it basically, as I mentioned, level funded. Okay, the dollars are the same, and that's a concern of ours. There's one slight deviation, and that's with animal science in the farm. So as you know, the vision's been to increase our animal science offerings, the concentrations within animal science. Obviously, we have more animals, we have new animals, we have more area that we have to support.
Where are we in the budget?
On page 5?
Yep. The printed number 5.
It's like halfway down that bottom section, you see it says class supplies and science,
Yeah.
and then you see other supplies farm.
Yeah.
Those are two lines I just want to sort of highlight. You see a $1,000 increase that we're proposing for animal science, and you see about a $5,000 increase for the farm. So that's to hopefully support the additional animals that we have down there. Beyond those two lines, every other line in that category, which is instructional materials, is level funded. I need to make that point known. That is not good news. I am concerned about that, but that's why we're here. And then on page 8, towards the bottom, it's a category for utilities. I'm looking at electricity. And as you can see, we are proposing level funding the electricity line of $200,000. Now, I want to thank Ben Weil from the city. He's done a lot of research into the costs. He is actually projecting that we'll have a substantial savings in electricity. I am concerned, as a realist, I don't know if we're going to see that level of savings for the electric bill. I know he is including the new horticulture building as part of his projections. That horticulture building is basically all electric. Our recommendation is that we level fund this particular line and that we keep our fingers and toes crossed that Ben is correct. And there may be a savings in that line, but until we see it, we felt we're safer trying to level fund that particular line. And then lastly, on the last page, I just want to give a quick summary. If you add up all the expenses, you see that the yellow columns, okay, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but the first yellow column is looking at a minimal minimal impact with Unit D. And the second column is not much better, but more of a moderate, okay, impact from Unit D. So we're calling it minimal and moderate, okay? At the bottom, we're looking at if it's a minimal impact, we do have a positive balance, okay? So there would be money that we would have to reallocate, okay? Just north of $130,000 or so, you know, if you did the math.
Where are you?
I'm just making, the very last page, page 9 at
Yep.
the bottom.
Yep.
I'm just doing the math between expense total and revenue total
Gotcha.
and comparing the two yellow columns.
So bottom two lines.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you do the math, it's about 137,000 to that first column. If you do the math on the second one, we're actually in a negative. We would be short, okay? So again, back to an earlier slide, you know, these shelves, you know, how much do we want to support extraordinary maintenance? This particular budget shows $0 for that. How much do we want to support supplies and materials? Right now, we're supporting level funding. We now know, fully well aware, that means a decrease in the amount of supplies that we have. And then what is the impact of negotiations? We don't know. And you can sort of see where we're sitting. It is what it is.
What are the Unit D percentage increases that you factored into the minimal and the moderate columns?
I'd recommend we,
Wait, on that, okay.
Okay, I was gonna
That's
ask
part
the
of-
same thing, but that's okay. We were up front.
Cindy wants to know, but
But the point is that that there are two proposals for us to consider that factor in that are factoring in increases, but.
I asked Mr. Bianca, Ms. Farrow, we have to build a budget knowing
Right.
that we don't have a settled contract,
Right,
but we have to build a budget with an assumption.
right.
So I gave this range.
So it's ballparked.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. So just sort of, I'm just looking for some guidance. We know that in a school budget, people are by far the most biggest expense, right? How much is the extraordinary maintenance cost now? And what are some examples of what extraordinary maintenance has paid for?
I want to say it was 90,000 this year, but I want to confirm that.
Yeah, we've had it as high as, I think, 140.
Oh, here it is, extraordinary maintenance. This year, current fiscal year was 96,930. And what you see in front of you, it's budgeted for $0 this coming year. What has that?
I apologize for interrupting. Was that fully expended this year? Or, because OOM would roll over, so is there?
So, well, ours can't, this
Oh.
can't because it's the operating.
Oh.
So, that's for the, carpentry and animal science lockers, they are here. And then Tim is going to be working on the hoods on the roof for intake and exhaust, because those need to be replaced as well. That's for this year. If you want previous, last year, I know we did other shop lockers.
We've done doors, door jams.
Yeah, so in the presentation, I skimmed over it, but there's like 2 or 3 slides in the facility improvement vision. A lot of these particular projects that say completed, many of them came from that particular budget.
Okay, so whether they
D-building,
8A
hallways.
blind doors, guidance suite, nursery suite, lockers, boilers, hallways, epoxy, lighting, faculty rooms, sign, lockers. So our extraordinary maintenance fund is supplemental to the capital improvement funds that we get from the city, is that right?
So this line that we're referring to
Yeah.
is supplemental. In addition to just general repairs, there are specific lines that you also see that we are funding. As an example, just trying to find it here. Repair and maintenance of buildings, you know, there's a budget line of 12,000, there's a supply line of 2,000.
So that's
So
minimal.
we have some other lines to help support the repairs of the buildings.
When I hear extraordinary maintenance, I think, oh, there's like a hurricane or a flood, and so we need, but extraordinary maintenance in this case means things that we weren't anticipating needing you know, an investment and then it does. And we've already, you know, the capital improvement projects have gone through the city's process, right, got it. So it's a safety net for us
Yes.
and not, if it's $96,000, it's not too much.
Out of a $14 million budget.
Yeah, it seems,
So have we budgeted in the past for the amount of extraordinary maintenance with an idea of projects? Okay, so not the other way around, that you knew you had 90,000 and you tried to.
We
back
had a
into
list.
those.
But then during the budget process, if we had to shave, that would be typically one line that we'd go back to and modify a little bit. So, previous years, it was higher than the 96, I think it was over 100,000 at one point, not in the far distant past.
Yeah. In FY '22 was 120,000. FY '23, the proposed was 86,000, and that was for 5,000 for plumbing mock-up because they had to redo their the plumbing, their mock-up that they worked on. That's when we started the shop lockers, the barn painting, and steel knee walls.
So this is essentially what we would call cash capital, where you built a certain amount of capital into your general operating budget for capital needs throughout the year.
okay,
It improved the faculty lounges, other spaces.
right. So the things that you want us to be thinking, well, I guess another question is, how can we approve a budget without a settled Unit D contract?
We have to do our best. We won't have a settled contract by April 8th.
No.
Right. So what will happen is, by the April 8th meeting, we'll have a tuition rate. So we will build a budget. We will have salary lines filled in with our best assumption. And then your question is, when we do settle, what happens if the settlement is higher than we were budgeting? We have to find that money somewhere.
Right.
Whether that is shifting lines of money or we begin to dip into tuition revolving, which that balance is not like it was years ago.
Right.
That's a concern of mine.
So the things that you want us thinking about in addition to these things, right, is the extraordinary maintenance and the level funding of things like, in every single line, is that what you want us to be thinking? That's not salary? You want us to be considering that?
So in my career, unfortunately, I've had too many budgets. We've been very lucky here at Smith.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really be self-reflective.
And good leadership.
You know, we've been very fortunate with our budgets. This discussion, most districts have had this discussion a few years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've lived those years, and early on, it's easy to cut supply. That's the easy one to save staff. My only red flag to that, as time goes on, if we continue to level fund or, worst case, decrease those particular lines, the experience that we offer our students goes down. But at the same time, the experience that our staff have also goes down. So what happens is we think we're doing right for the staff, we think we're doing right for the students by maintaining staff and cutting all the supplies. There comes this sort of critical point in time where we're gonna lose staff because we kept cutting, and at some point, we have to make a difficult decision to say, we have to lay some staff off so we can maintain the programs that we have and the supplies that we have. We're not there this year, okay, but I just wanna set sort of the stage with the board that those are the conversations that we have to say, okay, superintendent, you're coming back on April 8th with the budget, probably not gonna have a Unit D settlement, so we have to do the best we can. What are the priorities? Are we okay with level funding supplies and materials? Are we okay with $0 in the extraordinary maintenance? By doing that, we probably can save the staff that we have, and I think we have the opportunity, hopefully, to settle with Unit D, most likely in a
Manageable kind of
Correct.
way, budget-wise. So your budget is built with lots of information from the people who work here, from the educators and the administrators.
Yes.
Right, from the ground up.
Yes.
So when I'm thinking about level funding for all those lines that impact, academic and vocational classrooms as an example. Like, so teachers had they had a chance to convey what they're thinking to their department heads, and then the department heads to the,
Yes.
right. So this budget reflects that,
Yes, there's been a lot of input, yes.
but still there are decisions that you feel rest with us, ultimately will rest with us.
Board of Trustees, you have line item authority over a budget. And I felt it would be disrespectful to the board if I presented a budget that was voted upon with no chance for input. If you turn the news on, if you read the newspaper, all you hear right now is budget, budget, budget with all of the school districts, all of the input, all of the debate. And I felt this particular budget, while it could be a lot worse, okay, we can pick a district, okay, we could be a lot worse. But we are entering a season in this history of the school where discussions have to begin to happen at the board, so I can support your priorities. I feel that's my goal. So I don't think we have the days where, we could increase all these lines and we could have, all this, we could keep increasing staff. That's not happening anymore. So I just want to make sure that I hear the priorities and we can follow through on those priorities. That's what I'm looking for.
So between now and next month, you will be thinking about it, talking about it,
Reach out.
and then we'll have the number for the tuition, and we'll be looking at the budget you'll be proposing to us with the processing that we've done in the meantime.
And if you have any, feel free to reach out individually or this evening. Yeah. So if you didn't have a chance, obviously, as Dr. Bonner said, I emailed the draft out yesterday. Feel free to digest it more now that you have more of the context with it. But again, this budget is, the big assumption is the 3% increase in tuition. Let's hope that that happens, okay? And then beyond that, it's how do we make it work?
Yeah.
And I think those are the big pots where we have to look at.
And we're always thinking longer term. So whether it's the physical
Like at the moment.
facilities or whether it's the programs, the staff, it's always longer term.
Correct.
We don't want to go year to year being like, oh, what are we doing this year? We want to,
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's how districts get in trouble. They try to solve the problem that one year, not thinking that
Yeah.
this year's decision is gonna impact next year.
Right.
That's why I'm trying to at least start the conversation.
right, very much appreciated.
Okay,
So,
I'm all set.
so I appreciate all your information, Andy. A lot of work, and Crystal, thank you. Everybody that's contributing. It's an arm wrestle, and every year we go through it, and it doesn't get any easier. And like I said, we're gonna take the deep breath, and we've got our negotiation. And one thing, I've been on this board a long time, and the responsibility in the working together of everybody that is affiliated with the school. And some days you get the bear, and some days the bear gets you, and we know that. And we know the reality is reality. What's gonna come down the line is gonna come down the line, and we gotta take care of it. But the adjustments that we've been able to make in the past have worth it to keep the doors open, keep the teachers in place, and pay our bills. So, not easy, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So, that's what I have to say. So, future business, March 28th, a policy subcommittee meeting at noon time in the superintendent's conference room. April 3rd through 4th, 2025 FFA State Convention, Sheridan Framingham Hotel and Conference Center. April 8th, our regular board meeting, 5 o'clock here in the library. April 9th, our strategic planning subcommittee meeting at 5 p.m. in the superintendent's conference room. And
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
Second. Aye.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Mayor and